Welcome back to another edition of Real Recognizes Real. Of course, I am your host, College Cottrell, and this week we got an exciting one. We're going back to the defensive side of the ball here, and we are going to South Carolina, and we're focusing on edge Kyle Kennard. Kyle Kennard was a big part of that South Carolina defense, and he transferred in from Georgia Tech, and I think he was a big part of alongside of Dylan Stewart, true freshman, that really revamped that South Carolina defense and had them being one of the true surprise teams in the SEC. But with that said, let's go ahead and get right on into it. Kyle was one of those guys who I really liked seeing because he was a guy that jumped off of film when I was watching games like during the actual season. Like I was watching a South Carolina game and I was like, oh, who is this number 5 kid? Like I have to know more about him because of how disruptive he was in the game. So this was a fun one to go back and see. But we'll start off with the pros with him. The first thing that you immediately see is his speed. He flies off the edge. He uses the athleticism to really get around tackles. He can dip his shoulder, get upfield, and really get after quarterbacks there. So he definitely uses his frame and his athleticism to his advantage. The next thing I noticed is that the kid has a high IQ. He has a great feel for the game. He understands like why things are happening. He recognizes, when offensive linemen are pulling, he notices that right away. He gets right to a spot. I have a lot of film of him spilling certain plays, and I'll go over what that means if just in case some of you don't understand that. But yeah, he has a good feel for the game and knows where he needs to be and what his job is to ultimately make the defense go there. And then the last thing is that this kid is an absolute sack artist. Any way that he can get after the quarterback, he's going to do it. He seems very natural. He seems very calculated as well. Like he does certain things throughout games that you can tell he's setting the tackle up for that later satisfaction later on in the game because he knows that he's been doing a certain move all game and he has the counter for it to get that offensive tackle off guard there. So those are the big things that I noticed with him. Now, just to get in some of the negatives with this game, I have here reachable. For me, what that means is that he has issues at times setting the edge. So, if an offense is trying to go outside zone, I think that tackle or sometimes even the tight end, they can reach him easier than I'd like for, a guy that could potentially be a starting defensive end in the NFL. So I think he needs to work on that. I also noticed that he does sometimes play with high pad levels. And if you know anything, football is the game of leverage. And when you have those high pad levels, especially going up against tackles who are really just as athletic as you, but just, monstrous in size, in comparison to you, that can definitely put a wrench in your plans there. So you notice the production starts to slip a bit with those high pad levels. And then that really just kind of leads me into that last point there is, talking about the offensive linemen in the NFL, a lot of those guys are going to be huge. And so there are going to be concerns of him being undersized. And if that means he can play every down in the NFL, is he going to be a guy that you can only throw in there on third down when, it's an obvious pass situation and he's just pinning his ears back, getting after the quarterback? Or is he somebody you can rely on, 3 downs to, be able to stop the run and then also, get after the passer in passing situations? So I think those are going to be the question marks for him. And I think that's something that we can kind of figure out pretty early on in his career, but that'll just lead me right on into his player comp. And I had to go back a little bit for this one. But for me, just watching him, he reminded me a lot of Shane Ray coming out of Missouri about 10 or so years ago. Obviously, you see here with the frame, 6'4", 6'3", 254, 245. Really splitting hairs there. Shane was obviously a little bit quicker there in the 40, displayed a little bit more athleticism there and like the combine testing and things like that, which I think is the reason why Shane Ray was a consensus first round pick going into the draft. And that's why Kyle Kennard isn't really looked at that. I view Kyle Kennard as a great day 2 pick. I think he can be a plus starter for you. But I honestly think with Shane Ray specifically, seeing how he was utilized and how his career really didn't pan out to, I'm sure, how the Broncos would have hoped it to, probably factors into why Kyle Kennard isn't getting some of the love. And I'm not saying it's Shane Ray specifically's fault, but I'm just saying undersized defensive end that have the great speed rush, that have the athleticism. Just why you aren't valuing those guys as like a true first round talent. So with that said, I do want to go ahead and get into his film. We got 3 games, like always. We're going to go all from this past year in 2024. So all of his games in South Carolina. And we have a game against Alabama, game against LSU, and a game against Missouri. And I think those are great games to kind of highlight, especially for him, because these teams that I just brought up, they have talent that's going to the NFL level. Like these are going to be future tackles that he's facing off against in the NFL. So you kind of get an early feel of how productive he can be just playing that competition within the SEC. But we will start off here first in the game against Alabama. All right, you guys can see that. Perfect. All right, so I got this play marked down as good IQ. So I'm curious to see, because I don't remember off the top of my head what happens here, but you see the arrows highlighting him down at the bottom here, and they got him lined up against a tight end, and that's usually never good because the tight end won't block him. And so he sees that. I mean, he swims that tight end pretty instantly there. Look at it again here. Tight end tries to reach him. I mean, there's never a doubt. Never a chance that a tight end was going to be able to block him one-on-one in that situation. He gets the TFL and puts Bama behind the sticks there. That's a great play for him, and it's good that he's doing stuff like that in the run. He will make you pay if you try to block him. I know he's undersized, but blocking him with the tight end will not be in your best interest. Moving on here to play number 2, we'll go to 428. And looks like he's going to be showing off some speed here. So down the bottom of the screen, going up against the left tackle. And I know that play doesn't really look like much because of the left tackle really making a decision. But I think this kind of shows off his – I have this play marked down as speed because you really only have a split second with him. There is no opportunity. If you set too far inside, he's going to beat you around the edge here. And you kind of see it here. The left tackle, he looks inside, looks outside. He's like, do I block this guy? Do I block him? And free reign to the quarterback. It's too late. Kennard's getting back there, and that's a sack. Probably the easiest sack of his career there, but nonetheless, I mean, it just kind of shows you his get off, and you can't make those mistakes on the outside against him. We are going to move on here to 536, showing off some more speed against Bama. So he's switching sides here, which is also one of the things I did want to point out with him. He can go against your right tackle, your left tackle. He will move throughout the game. It's really whatever you feel like you have the advantage with him. He stunts. He'll go inside. I've seen certain times where South Carolina actually only had 3 down linemen. I think that's more of a testament to how good the entire defensive line is and getting home. Again, highlighting Dylan Stewart on the other side, and of course Kyle Kennard, the guy that we're focusing on here. But just one thing to look out for is that he can play both sides and have an impact on the game here. So see some more speed here going up against the right tackle. Again, I know I showed you earlier, I said that's an easy sack and you don't want to leave him uncovered there. Well, look, this is a play where the right tackle, again, he looks inside because that's what he's supposed to do. You look inside first. You want to try to take away the most dangerous threat, and that's going to be the guy who has more inside and has a direct line to quarterback. However, with that said, the tackle realizes that guy who was in front of him that seemed like a threat isn't really going to be a threat. He tries to get back, and at that point, it is way too late. When you have Kyle Kennard screaming off the edge here, there's no tackle that's going to be able to cover that and get over to him. So he doesn't actually get the sack here, but he is the one that causes all the disruption in this play that ultimately leads to a sack. That's great work from from him. And I think that, again, another play that just kind of shows off his athleticism. I know he's unblocked, so you don't really get to see him move, but I think that just shows off his athleticism and just kind of lets you know that you cannot afford to even be a split second late in terms of, what you're doing in the blocking against Kyle Kennard. Now, he showed us some good plays so far. Let's go ahead and get to one of my concerns with him, and that's going to be setting the edge. So down here, in the red zone, they're on the, it looks like 7 or 8 yard line, and Bama motions over a tight end. So you got a tight end over in front of him. And I know I said before, you can't rely on the tight end to block him. I think he made him pay earlier. This tight end was like, well, it's time to get some revenge here. So he blocks down. Obviously, he had some pullers, but they reach him. And I mean, this gets down to the 2 1 yard line here. Again, you get the tight end. You're going to have some pullers from the left side of the line here, but you get the tight end on a down block on Kyle Kennard. He's right here over the right tackle. And boom. I mean, that is an alleyway. I know it's tight end, but you can't get blocked by a tight end here. You have to fight that outside arm to just put yourself in the gap. Like right now, if the running back cuts it in right here, 45 is supposed to, I'd imagine how this play is designed. 45 is supposed to give this a little chip. And then, I mean, this is a runway. This is a runway for the ball carrier here. And this probably should have been a touchdown. Kyle's got to get more outside. He's got to flow a little bit better there and, just cut off that gap so it's not a wide open alley. Just some of the concerns that I have with him. And I think a big part of that is size. I don't think it's effort. I truly just think he's just a little undersized there. And so in certain situations, that kind of happens to him. But we are moving on here to the next one. 7-13, got a good IQ play here. All right, so line up against the right tackle. He defeats the chip, gets after the quarterback. Jalen Milroe throws it away there. That's intentional ground, and that is a safety. So I say this is a good IQ play because I'm not going to lie to you. Just looking at the film, I don't know what he was supposed to be doing on this play. I don't know if he's considered a spy. I don't know if it was like some delayed pressure here, but I loved what I saw because, again, right away, he defeats the chip, goes off the quarterback. Jalen Milroe, obviously, probably the best athlete as far as quarterback goes in this upcoming draft, and he gets him to the ground, no problem there. And, again, this is ultimately ruled a sack because of the intentional grounding, ruled a sack. He gets the safety. This puts points on the board for South Carolina. Great play there. And then we actually had the very next play here. 740. All right. So another good IQ play. So this is after South Carolina gets the ball back, after the safety. So this is Bama's first play in the very next possession. Again, lined up down here against this right tackle, stunts inside, gets the sack. I mean, that is beautiful. That's how you blow a play up right there. And at this point, he is putting his stamp on this game. So again, he's lined up against this right tackle here. He's been going outside all game. We've been seeing him go outside all game. He sees the play. He sees the open field that he has. He gives him an inside move because he knows he has help coming from the outside. Looks like it's like a safety blitz or a linebacker blitz coming from the outside. So he knows that he can afford to go inside on this play. Again, I just want to show it from the end zone view here one more time here because this is beautiful. Ball gets snapped, set him up on the outside, dip and rip inside, get the sack. Again, put Bama behind the sticks. We only got a couple more plays in this one. And I believe this next one, you guys might be saying, why the hell are you showing me this? But if you stick with me, you'll fully understand why. I don't believe he actually makes the play here, but I think this is going to show you the IQ of Kyle. So I know I mentioned it before when I was kind of going over the pros and cons about his ability to spill. And essentially what spilling is that when you have offensive linemen pulling towards you, you want to drop your shoulder to them and square up in that gap. So you don't want them to be able to get up to the second level. You're basically just sacrificing yourself and having your teammates go and make the play for you. So you'll see exactly what I mean here. Again, line up on the right side here. They pull. He gets right up in there and creates an absolute mess. So again, you see pullers. You have the tight end pulling, and it looks like the left guard is pulling as well. He sees that, and a lot of people try to just beat that and make the play themselves. That is not his responsibility here. His responsibility is to just muck all of this up here, and everybody is supposed to fill on the outside. He's not trying to be a hero. He is doing his job. And at the next level, that is what you want. You cannot afford to make mistakes. That's how big plays happen. So again, he sees it. He's not necessarily trying to make this play. I mean, ultimately he does, but he spills it. I mean, that is beautiful ball from him. And I know South Carolina has to be teaching him this technique because that is all you see throughout his film. Every time you get pulling lineman in his direction, he is spilling every single time. Beautiful stuff from him. Now we will go to the last play here of this game, 12:26. All right, so last one here. Again, on the verge of the red zone here, or right at it. Looks like they're at the 20. You see him on the outside up there, and I believe this is a play that's going to go to bounce to the outside. So again, knowing how this works here, you are the last line of, I'm not going to say the last line of defense here, and it looks like it's an RPO because you have Ryan on the bubble down here as well. But you need to focus on getting to the outside. You want to get to the offensive lineman's right shoulder. You don't want the play to get outside of you. But again, with him, I think it's more so the lack of size, but gets them to the edge, and it's not a big play, but this is a first down for Alabama here. So again, look at it right off the snap here. He's already beat. He is already beat. You want to get to his outside shoulder on this play. Once you see that it's a run and how they're blocking, you want to get to the outside shoulder there. I'd argue he gets held a little bit, but then, the lack of effort there towards the end, wasn't a big fan of that either. I don't think that shows up too much here, but like at this point, there's no run to the ball. He's just looking. He's walking. Not a big fan of that, but again, just area for improvement there. But that is it for that game. Let's go ahead and go to the LSU game next. Let's get that pulled up here. All right, I think it's this one. Yep. So this is the one. All right. So the first play against LSU, we're starting off pretty early here. He gets a pass rush win. The one thing I want to remind you guys about LSU is that they have two tackles that are going to be drafted, one in the first round and one either day 2 or early day 3, in Will Campbell and Emory Jones. So again, a very good judge of what he'll be able to do against NFL size and NFL talent caliber players. So we'll go here first. He's going up probably against Emory here. Yeah, he's on the right side. So going up against Emory. See him down low there. Let's start that over. I don't like how I started that. All right. So you see, obviously has the arrow on him. They bring the tight end over. What did I tell you guys before? Having a tight end block him is just a terrible decision. And ultimately, it leads to a pick six. Doesn't get the sack, but it ultimately leads to a pick six. So they bring Mason Taylor over, who is going to be a really good tight end at the next level. Shout out Mason Taylor there. But you're not going to be able to block Kyle Kennard in terms of pass rush. Are you kidding me? So they try to do that. Dips and rips on the outside of him, grabs him by the back of the jersey, creates the pick six, And for those of you that might be saying that's a horse collar, when quarterbacks are inside the pocket, that is not a thing there. You can grab them wherever the hell you want to, as long as you don't hit them below the knee. So that is a clean play, and that play stood up as a touchdown for South Carolina. All right, so we're going to move on to the 257 mark here and see a little bit more speed rush from the young lad. All right, who's he lined up against this time? All right, so they got him wide. He's about 6, probably in the 6 technique there, but he's lined up. Will Campbell. This is going to be a tough reach for you, Will. But let's see what happens. Boom, right off the line, dip and rip. Garrett runs right into him. That's a beautiful rep. And Will Campbell is my top-rated offensive lineman in this class. Again, he's out wide. I mean, definitely probably in the 6 technique there. But he's out wide. Will is trying to go get him. And again, I think part of the issue is that Will is probably thinking, first things first, like, let's make sure this guy, I don't know if they're going to stun or whatever, but he's kind of trying to play the middle ground there with both of them. Now he sees where everything's going. He squared up with them, and he's supposed to have running back help here. I don't know if this is a chip going wrong or what, but Kyle Kennard is one-on-one with Will. Running back actually chips the inside guy there, and this is good. He is not standing straight up. You see the knees are bent there. He's running the hoop right now. This is textbook running the hoop. He's got the lowest pad levels of everybody. I mean, look at the rest of the defensive line of South Carolina. Straight up, albeit a double team. He's got some bend here, but he's not bending the hoop. This is bend. This is how you get around the corner on a tackle who was going to be the first tackle taken off the board in this upcoming draft. And then you finish it off with the sack there. That's beautiful stuff from Kyle Kennard on that play. All right, let's see where we're going to next. More pass rush wins. Right, 6-minute mark. So we'll just go from here. All right, again, lined up against Will Campbell. All right, boom. Now he's been beating him outside all day. This time he went inside because he knew he could afford to do so. Ultimately, it was a completion, but that's not what I'm looking at here. I'm looking at him doing his job. I mean, he's at the quarterback in 2 seconds. Look, boom, set him up outside wide, go inside. Dip, rip, quarterback on the ground. Look, I know it resulted in the completion. We're not worried about the completion. I'm talking about the move. How he set up. He's diabolical in terms of how he's setting up his pass rush. And I love that. I love that about him. All right. So we'll go to, actually, looks like it's going to be the very next play here. He's probably getting all the confidence. I mean, he's at this point in the game, he's kind of kicking Will Campbell's ass. So he's probably got some confidence here, but Will's no slouch. He is going to also get his. So we'll look at this play. It's a run play. Hems him up. Gets outside of him. That is a big time play in the run game from LSU here. So now I talk about him keeping contained, often here, but you also have to be smart here. So you do your job in a sense of keeping contained, but knowing your alignment and just knowing how plays flow here, you have to know that you got to get in here. You're supposed to have a backer probably feel that. Like I think this guy, whoever this is probably not doing his job here as well. But this is just domination here from Will. I mean, he never had a chance. Never had a chance to even try and make a play. If this play bounces there, you got to get inside of that. That's a great rep from Will. But again, just with him being undersized, this is kind of one of the things you kind of worry about teams really pinpointing and going after him in the running game. But we will move on here to 7-10. So just not that much later. All right. Him and Will were going after it all day here. Another rep. going up against Will. Let's see what happens. All right, goes inside again, gets the hit on the quarterback. Again, ultimately a completion, but that is no fault of Kyle Kennard's. All right, let's see how you set him up. Set him up like you were about to go on the outside. You get inside, you get the leverage, you get the hit on the quarterback. Will is out of position here because he thought he was going to get an outside move. He gets the hit on the quarterback. Ultimately, it's a completion, but again, we're not worried about that. We're worrying about what he's doing. All right, now we are at the last play of the LSU game here. And then we just got a few plays out of Missouri, and we're gonna call it a day for Mr. Kennard here. All right, 12:31. Let's go back. Go here. I got this charted as a good IQ play. So let's see what happens. Again, lined up over Will Campbell, unblocked, but I mean, being able to just go get the running back right away. I mean, that is good stuff there. It could have been a read option. He reads it all the way. It is not a good idea to leave Kyle Kennard unblocked. I mean, just with his knowledge and his feel for the game, I don't know if that'll ever put you in a great position. So that was that there. Obviously, big time TFL there, and just an awful decision by LSU. But again, just kind of showing his athleticism, his feel for the game. He's going to make that play 10 times out of 10. There's no fooling him if you leave him unblocked with that kind of time to process what's going on. But all right, that is it for that one. Like I said, we just got one more here. We're going to go ahead and get on up out of here this morning. And we are going to go to the game against Missouri, which is, after looking at the film, I actually think is probably one of his worst performances. But again, Missouri also has a guy who is going to be a first round pick as a tackle. So you can kind of understand it. Doesn't excuse it, but I can at least understand it and know that they were going back and forth in this game here. But we will start off with 229 here. And it's the player, I believe he has some high pad levels and no production. So look, standing straight up, I mean, the offense, that is an offensive lineman's dream right there. You go straight up, you hit me with no moves, no nothing. All right, so you see it from the end zone view. So see the play start here, and Kyle's on the right side of the screen right now. All right, just started, but before you saw the bend, and I'll even go a little bit further here. He tried to give him a push-pull where he's ripping his jersey, and the lineman moves a little bit there, but that's not going to work against this. That's not going to work against him. This is a first-round talent at tackle. You're not going to get an easy push-pull, no moves, no leverage, no nothing. That's a bad rep from Kyle there. He, again, against some other players that may work, but against the big athletic guys who are just as strong as you, and just as quick as you, but 100 pounds heavier, yeah, that is not going to fly. And I feel like we saw a lot of that in this game against Missouri specifically. He had great pad levels against LSU, and this one I think he was a little bit sloppier. But we'll see him again lined up left side again, and again, I'm looking at it right now. He is standing straight up. Dylan Stewart, this is great from Dylan Stewart right here. He sees that he's going after, he's dipping. I mean, he looks like he's 45 degrees right now. Like that's how hard he's trying to get around this tackle. But looking at Kyle Kennard, I mean, you're standing straight up. Again, it doesn't get much easier, especially of a guy who has the talent of Missouri's left tackle there. And obviously it's no big play there, but again, that's going to get you in trouble a lot at the next level when you're standing straight up, when your advantage is your speed, your athleticism, and just being able to get around tackles. So you see it again here from the end zone view. You think you get a better look here, but he tries to make a move inside here, but once that move doesn't work, ball's already out. It's completion, not a big play, but I just think that stuff you got to look out for ultimately with Kyle Kennard. All right, but we'll go just a few plays later here. I have this chart as a good IQ play. I think this is a run play where he spills. Yep. So just go back it up just a little bit there. All right, so you have this player in motion. Looks like I'd imagine it's a tight end. You have him in motion going down there, and then you also have your center pulling. I mean, he recognizes that right away. Boom. That's his job right there. He literally did his job. He tried to make the play out of it, but this is his job. He is supposed to spill this. Spill it, boom. And that turns out to be a decent size gain for Missouri, but that's no fault of Kyle Kennard. His play rec is absolutely insane. For him to be able to diagnose this pretty much instantly right off the snap there, boom. I mean, that's a good cut by the running back as well there. But this is not his play to make at all. Not his play to make at all, but he's right there and does literally his job almost and then some. Running back makes a nice little cut and, gets the gain there. But that's good work from Kyle Kennard. We're going to go a lot later in this one. We're going to go to the 17 minute mark. Just a couple more, and then we will be done here. Again, spilling, not his play to make. Everybody's flowing. Everybody's doing their job. You had some missed tackles in there. And again, I know these are a little bit more boring. I thought as a whole, he was really held in check for a lot of this game, but that didn't deter him from still doing the little things. I mean, you saw the past two games. He's making plays. He's doing these things, but, really wasn't having that kind of success in this game. But he's still doing those little things right here. So get it off the snap here, puts them in motion. They pull right towards him. He spills, does his job, and we'll go from there. South Carolina, they rides the ball, they make the play there. But yeah, big fan of the little things, and we just got one more play from him, and then we will be all wrapped up here. I just told you guys how he was not making an impact on this game. You haven't really seen, crazy TFLs from him in this game or the sacks. Well, this is with the game on the line. South Carolina is 34-30 at this point, and Missouri, this is their opportunity to try and march down the field and put some points up on the board and win the game. And I know I'm always talking about music, but like on Wire to Wire, but this is the perfect definition of I'm not always there when you call, but I'm always on time. You get three rushers here for what it's worth. So they're only rushing three. Like I told you that they can do that from time to time because of how good that line is, but only rushing three. You set up the speed rush to the outside. You throw the tackle. You throw a tackle off of you. You go inside. You get the sack here, and that effectively puts this game to bed. This game is over now. So again, you set it up. You've been going outside all day. You reposition. You get inside. You get the sack, and you put the game to bed. Again, 34-30. That was the second to last play. But yeah, that was really pretty much all she wrote there for Missouri, and Kyle Kennard making that basically game-ending play there and getting the sack. But that is it this week for Kyle Kennard and his film. Again, I think he's going to be a day 2, maybe even a day 3 pick, but I think he's a guy that can have an instant impact for an opposing team's for his team's defense. And I think he can be a starter and be an every down caliber defensive end at the next level. Next week, we are going to go back to the offensive side of the ball. I believe I'm going to be doing Omarion Hampton, running back from North Carolina. I'm looking forward to looking at his film there. And then we are basically a month away from the NFL draft happening. So it is right around the corner. Again, appreciate you guys for tuning in and showing me some support with this. If you have any players you want me to go over, just look at their film or just get an opinion on, feel free to reach out. I definitely always open for the communication with you guys and just getting some additional feedback to you. But yeah, that's it for this week. And next week we'll be going to the running backs. But appreciate it, and everybody enjoy the rest of their day.